which should I choose? You ever stand in front of a shelf at the supermarket and just stop? Like, you came for toothpaste, but now you're frozen because there are 40 different kinds of toothpaste. Whitening, herbal, charcoal, triple mint, mountain fresh, or even extra sparkle. Like, you came to clean your teeth, not to experience a crisis at aisle 5. And suddenly, you're not just choosing what kind of toothpaste, you're choosing what kind of person you are. That's the paradox of choice. We think more options immediately means more freedom, more happiness, more me. But what if more is exactly what's making us so miserable? You see, we live in a world obsessed with filling in the gaps. Empty, buy something. Lonely, post something. Lost, scroll something. We think those empty, uncertain gaps are what make us feel so broken. But what if the gap isn't the problem? What if they're the point? Because when we fill every silence, every pause, every little ache with something, we forget how to sit with nothing. Now, let me tell you a story. When I was younger, I used to think that happiness was like a math problem. Like if I could just add enough, add more achievements, more approval, more followers, the equation would finally balance out. But guess what? It doesn't. It only ends up becoming longer and messier. And somewhere between what do I want and what should I want, I forget to ask myself, do I even like this version of me? Because choice isn't just about what we pick, it's about what we must let go. And nobody talks about that part. Nobody tells you that when you stand in front of 1,000 open doors, you'll spend your entire life haunted by the ones you didn't open. We call it freedom, but most days, it just feels like drowning. Think about it. You finish a show, and the next one starts automatically playing. You finish scrolling through one app, and muscle memory drags you to the next. We don't choose anymore. We drift. We confuse unlimited access with meaningful direction. We build a world so loud on choice, we forget to hear ourselves think. Someone once said, which was a psychologist, his name was Barry Schwartz, and what he said was, we can't keep making the same choices and expect to feel better about them just because you regret them afterward. And that hit me, because that's what we do, isn't it? We keep making choices we know will hurt us, and then try to soothe that guilt with even more choices. We buy, we scroll, we swipe, not because we're happy, but because stopping only feels worse. Now, let's mind the gaps. That phrase, it's supposed to be a safety warning, right? But what if it's also spiritual advice? Mind the gaps between who you are and who you pretend to be, between what you show and what you feel, between all the things you could have been and the one thing you chose to do, because that's where the truth lives, in that quiet, uncomfortable space where you can't hide behind more. But don't worry, there's beauty in the gap, only if you're brave enough to look at it. When you stop filling it with distractions, you start hearing things again, like the sound of your thoughts, the sound of your heartbeat, the sound of your thoughts, unfiltered, uncurated. It may not always sound pretty. Sometimes it may sound like regret. Sometimes it may even sound like grief. But that's real. And guess what? It's worth something. We live in a generation that has everything, yet we still feel like nothing's enough. We can choose any career, any style, any person, yet the more roads open up, the harder it gets to walk down one. Then we blame ourselves for feeling lost, as if confusion is a flaw instead of a natural response to standing in a maze with no map. But what if the goal was never to have it all? What if the goal was to care deeply about the few things we choose to do? Because choice is never power unless it's paired with purpose. You know what I think? Maybe the problem isn't that we don't know what we want. Maybe the problem is that we're too scared to want less, because wanting less feels like admitting we're too simple, too boring, too weak. But trust me, simplicity isn't failure. It's focus. It's courage. It's saying this small, quiet, ordinary thing is enough for me. And guess what? That's radical in a world that feeds on our dissatisfaction. We don't need more choices. We need more clarity, more stillness, more moments where we look at the gap between what we have and what we thought we needed and think, this is enough. Maybe it was never about filling the emptiness, but finding peace inside it, finding purpose, finding reason. So mind the gaps, not because they're dangerous, but because they're sacred. Mind the gaps between who you are and who you pretend to be. Because in that gap, between one choice and the next, that's where we find ourselves. And not in the endless aisles of toothpaste, but in that quiet pause, and not in the infinite scroll of what ifs, but in the first time where everything stops moving, and you do too. You see, the paradox of choice was never about toothpaste or streaming shows or shoes. It's all about purpose. It's all about meaning. We keep looking for it in every single place, every corner, everywhere. Yet that is hiding in the nothing. So the next time you feel overwhelmed by all the things you could do, could be, could buy, choose less, sit with the silence, mind the gap, because between one choice and the next, between one breath and the next, that's where life quietly whispers, this is enough. Thank you.